Hey guys, I'm Ginny Designs and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video is part of the big collaboration with the Costube community called CoCoVid 2020. CoCoVid is essentially an online event and multiple videos being uploaded in kind of like a panel format to make up for the loss of many conventions, including Costume College, which would have been taking place the same weekend, where all of these videos are being uploaded together. There's also a Discord server where some live events will be going on and such, so be sure to check that out. I'll put some links in the description for you guys so you can check out everything all together and enjoy this big opportunity to check out a whole bunch of costume related content. I didn't think I was going to participate, but then I realized I really miss doing panels since I have done many at conventions. And my favorite one to do is probably my introduction to pattern drafting for cosplay. Now, that panel I usually have about an hour's time to do it, and an hour-long video about pattern drafting is not exactly what I want to do here. So instead, I thought I would introduce you guys to the different methods of pattern drafting. And if you're interested and like this video a lot, maybe I'll start going into more depth like I do in my usual in-person panel at conventions and start talking more about how each of the methods work more specifically and give more examples and even some demonstrations if that interests you. So I've been doing pattern drafting for a few years now. I learned how to do it in school. I did 3 years of fashion design at College, where we would have once a week classes of 4 hours per week learning how to do flat pattern drafting. And we even had sometimes a 3-hour class once a week where we would do draping, and then we learned some of the other methods in both of these classes. I even took a 4th year of college for costume production where we did even more pattern drafting and learned even more methods. So this is a skill that takes a lot of time and patience and practice to learn. So you're not exactly gonna be able to leave this video and then pattern draft amazing large gowns or anything like that. No, it takes a lot of practice, but before you start, you need to know what method you are going to do, as there are quite a few, and I'm gonna cover the 4 best ones for cosplay, at least in my opinion, in this video. So the first type of pattern making that I'm going to be discussing is probably the one that comes to most people's minds when they think of pattern making or pattern drafting, and that would be flat pattern drafting. This method is the most mathematical of all the methods and involves taking a 2D shape and making it into a 3D shape. So you're doing everything flat using measurements and geometry and bisecting lines and such like that to create a shape that will eventually fit onto a 3D form. Yourself ideally, or whoever you're making your costume for. For people with very mathematical and logically wired brains, this is probably going to be your favorite method of all of them. It is a way where you can take those measurements that you've been given or measured yourself and turn them into a flat shape. This method involves using something called a sloper. A sloper or a block is a basic shape of a garment or a basic pattern. So as you can see, this is a bodice pattern. It has darts marked out. It has the bust line marked out. You can see your neckline, your shoulder. You can see all those pieces, and you have a back one for it as well. Don't know what darts are. They are parts that you tuck in like that a little bit. It's not very easy to do on cardboard, of course, but it's the parts that you tuck in to contour around the body. So all basic blocks for woven fabrics will have them because this would not fit onto a 3D body as it is a flat shape, so that's where your darts come in. The main function of flat pattern drafting involves taking your block, your sloper, whatever you like to call it, and manipulating the darts and then starting to manipulate everything else. If you don't have slopers or someone who makes slopers available to you, there are also flat patterning methods of creating your own slopers from your measurements. Luckily, companies like McCall's have put out a pattern that is basically all basic blocks and basic pattern pieces meant to be manipulated with all the lines and stuff you might need to alter things to whatever kind of garment you want to make. Second method of pattern making is one of the more popular ones, draping. Draping is when you take fabric and put it onto a dress form like this one here, pin it into place, and start making shapes with the fabric from there and marking your pattern onto it. This is a style that is far more popular with those who are more artistically inclined and brains are more wired for more artistic ways or more visual ways of creating things. Draping is a method where you're working on 3D to create 3D. For some people, the measurements and math variation will work a lot better for them, but for a lot of people, especially if they're doing garments that have a lot of tucks and pleats and draping flowing pieces, draping works a lot better to visualize what they're trying to make and manipulate it in a way where they have a lot more control on the darts, the pleats, and the flowing bits and such like that. For a lot of people, this is a favorite method because it can create and design as they're doing the method, unlike where you have to kind of have a plan usually for when you're doing flat pattern drafting. You don't just, I'm gonna see what happens. With draping, you can just kind of go with the flow and see what happens, or have a plan depending on what kind of thing you're trying to accomplish. Draping, ideally, you're taking the fabric onto the form, pinning it into place, figuring out the shape you're trying to create, and then marking where the seams for that shape would go, or the darts, the pleats, etc. So you're marking where everything goes onto it, and then when you take it off and unpin everything, you have the shape that you later transfer to your good fabric. So you don't drape with your good fabric right away, because you're gonna be cutting into things, marking things, and you don't want to ruin it at that point. That is the basic function of draping. The third method of pattern making isn't actually technically a method of pattern making, but it is a way to customize patterns for your cosplays, and that would be altering pre-existing patterns. We're in a day and age where companies like McCall, Simplicity, etc. have put out all sorts of different patterns, and if there's a character out there that you want to cosplay, there is very likely a pattern out there that is pretty similar, and sometimes you're even lucky that there's one that's tailored to that character. It is meant to be implied to be the character you want to make. But sometimes that just won't exist. The character is too niche or has too unique of an outfit, and you're gonna have to find something close enough and work from there. That's when you take things and you lengthen them. Maybe you make the skirt something wider. You just start to alter the shapes so it looks more like the character you're trying to create. It's very valuable to learn to alter things and alter patterns and figure out how patterns work and do a little bit of trial and error, and that's what's really nice about this method. And the fourth method is one that is used more in fashion compared to costume, but is also important to mention because it's very, very helpful in cosplay, and that is the knockoff method. If you've watched some of my other videos where I've actually created garments, you've seen that I have used this method a few times. So this method involves basically taking a garment and a tracing wheel tool and tracing out where the pattern pieces are. So you take the garment, lay it flat, and trace around it and all the little functions it might have, like darts, pleats, etc., to create a pattern piece based off something you already have. So if you have a garment where you know, oh, this is so close to this character I want to make, but it's the wrong color, wrong fabric, etc., but you have it as a base, so you could use that as your pattern essentially and just trace out the pieces. Ginny D actually has a really good video where she shows how she does this particular method without a tracing wheel. So if you don't own a tracing wheel, it's a pretty handy video. I'll link it in the description below because it's very, very helpful. So again, this is not a method that is considered making a pattern from scratch, but it is a method used a lot in the fashion world. So it definitely counts, and it's another great way to practice before you go into diving into pattern making from scratch. It's a great way to learn the foundations of how sewing and garment making works. These are the four main methods that I like talking about when it comes to pattern making for cosplay. If this is something you're interested in, you want to learn more, maybe about in-depth descriptions of each method or really how to perform each method of drafting, do let me know. I would like to eventually do some more videos about pattern making, as it is something I really enjoy about the world of costuming, sewing, and fashion in general. And if you've liked this video, please be sure to like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. See you guys next video. Bye.